How's it going? Back again Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Patterdale Talk. Of course, I'm with my bro Marshall, like always.
What's up, guys?
And today we have good friend Austin, and he does a lot of different types of hunting with several different types of animals. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Austin, you want to let them know a little about yourself, or?
Yeah, I live in Sacramento, California. I have 3 different hunting dogs. I have a Yog, a Patterdale, and a Magyar. Magyar is essentially like a Hungarian Greyhound. They look a lot like Greyhounds, but they have thicker bones, thicker skin, more endurance. They seem to have a lot better heat tolerance. They're pretty cool. Yeah.
Are they more like Saluki in type?
Salukis are more of a primitive breed and they act like it. I wouldn't really consider the Magyars. I would say that they like their personalities and their type is much more like a Greyhound. They just have some characteristics that could, potentially lend itself to a Saluki. They don't have the endurance of a Saluki, but they have a lot more endurance than like a traditional Greyhound.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, especially like compared to like those. It's kind of like in the middle from what you described.
Yeah.
What got you kind of in the first place?
Into the Sighthounds?
In the dogs, period. Really working.
Oh, yeah. So I'm originally from Louisiana, where hunting dogs are a lot more prevalent than obviously in California. There's hunting dogs everywhere, and growing up, I would go out with. I had friends who had hunting dogs and, I had some family with hunting dogs and I would go out with them and stuff. And I got really enamored with terriers because I had friends who, whenever I started falconry, I had friends who I would see like on Facebook and I would go out to the field with them and they'd have these dogs, that were flushing game for them. And my first hunting dog, real hunting like terrier was my Patterdale Critter. I got her when I moved out here and kind of wanted to do that, wanted to get into ratting. I thought ratting was really cool. So kind of a lot of things went into it. But
where'd you get her from?
I got her from a breeder here in, actually he's in Modesto. I can't remember his name. But yeah, I got her when she was 9 months old. She had a plethora of issues that I was not aware of and ill prepared for. But
like health issues, health-wise?
She has luxating patella, which, is pretty common in terriers of all types. I didn't even notice it whenever I went to get her. I was kind of blinded by just wanting to get a Patterdale, and I didn't stop and think a little bit more, which is obviously an oversight on my part. But yeah, I got her when she was 9 months old. I'm not sure how she was raised, but she was extremely dog aggressive, human aggressive. She was just anything that moved aggressive, pretty much.
Sounds like she was left in a damn cage.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's a really common theme for this area, in particular, for people to like produce Patterdales that are just not good quality at all. They just kind of mass produce them.
Where did you say you was at again?
I'm in Sacramento, California.
Yeah, I feel like in California there's just so much like of a big hunting and dog culture that's kind of all over the place. Like you guys can do so many different things. But like, do you think it's just kind of oversaturated, and that's kind of why?
I was about to say oversaturated.
I wouldn't
even actually work them.
I wouldn't even consider it oversaturation. It's just poor quality. There's not that. It's not like there's 20 breeders who are breeding Patterdales, and some of them are nice and some of them are bad. There's still a rarer dog type for the area. You don't see very many Patterdales like walking down the street here. The only time you see them is really they come from shelters because these breeders like mass produce them, and if they can't sell their mangy puppies for a couple $100, they'll just dump them somewhere and you'll see Patterdales just roll in and out of the shelters. It's pretty unfortunate.
Definitely.
I think, yeah, actually, I think I have honestly noticed that for like most of the Facebook posts about Pats or Yogs in shelters, they happen to mostly be in California. Now that you say that.
Yeah, there's a good bit of them. And, good dogs do. I mean, they produce good dogs sometimes. Like one of my really good friends, Emily, has a Patterdale named Raven. I don't know. You know her. She's Patter Raven on Instagram. But, that dog came from a shelter. And she's wonderful. Like, you could not write out a better description of what you would want in a dog. And then there's other dogs that are just absolutely monsters that come from them. And that's kind of what mine was kind of just like a train wreck at first.
Yeah, it's kind of just like good dogs are where you find it, but at the same time, you're bettering your odds by going to somewhere reputable. But
definitely,
yeah, I like Raven a lot. I see her post a lot. I think she'll probably pop in the chat at some point in time because she said she'd be listening to this.
Probably, yeah. She said she was going to.
How long do you think it took you to get the dog right? The dog that your Patterdale.
I wish I could answer that question, but she's still kind of not right. Yeah, I have her to a point now because obviously I can't have a dog. I can't work. I have a lot of friends with dogs. I'm working in a lot of public places with my dogs. I can't have a dog that's trying to kill every dog that's around her. I've got her now to a point where, she's fine with a lot of dogs. She's fine with my dog. She's fine with Raven. I just kind of do my best to keep her out of situations that are high stress that I know kind of induce that behavior that she goes through. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of just like not using her whenever I'd like to because she has that issue.
Yeah. I'll be right back, guys. I got baby to take care of. 1 sec.
Oh yeah, there goes Emily is actually in the chat now.
Yeah.
How's it going, Emily? Yeah, so when you said you hunt with what was the bird type you hunt with?
So currently I have a Harris Hawk. I've had a couple others that I've hunted with the dogs. I had a red tail that I hunted with them. Basically what I'm using the terriers for in the field is there's a lot of areas with brush, blackberries and things like that obviously I'm not going to crawl in there. I mean, that, a lot of dogs don't even want to go in there. I'm not going in there. So the dogs will go in there, kind of locate the rabbits. They'll push them out for the bird, which is really nice. We have a lot of wide open fields here in California that, I don't know how much, if you've hunted jackrabbits or really been exposed to that.
No, I haven't hunted jackrabbits. No.
Yeah, that type of behavior. They basically, they don't live in burrows. They live just right on the ground. They have their babies out on the ground, and they get by with doing that because they're born being able to run really fucking fast.
Yeah.
But they don't want to run if they don't have to. That's a lot of energy to exude. So they will just stay in one spot. And I literally have stepped on jackrabbits in the field. And you will never find that. Like, if you don't have a dog, if you go to somewhere where there's a lot of jackrabbits and you just walk around enough, you'll find one. But if you don't have a dog, it will take forever, to get jackrabbits up a lot of the times. Yeah. So it's really convenient to have a dog that knows what it's looking for.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, that'll quarter a field and find them for you.
Yeah. So, and when was it just the bird just swoops and snatch them up?
In an ideal world, that's what happens. In falconry, it's not like you're gun hunting. You're not gonna have a bird and it just every time hit the rabbit. There's a lot of misses. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misses, a lot of close calls, a lot of reflushing. That the dogs come in handy for too. Reflushing a rabbit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, ideally what would happen is you would have the bird either on the glove or waiting in a tree or on a power line or something like that. And you flush a rabbit or the dog flushes a rabbit. And then the bird comes in and grabs a hold of the cottontail, jackrabbit, whatever you're putting up for it.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. So, yeah. I mean, I never really never really thought of even getting into hawks or birds or falcons. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
sounds cool.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's
Go ahead. I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, it's definitely like a time commitment, but if you enjoy it and you enjoy hunting and you enjoy kind of like the partnership, it's worth it to, persevere.
No, that's cool to have a bird like that for sure.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite type of hunting?
I feel like the definition of my favorite type of hunting changes a lot because falconry is, it has really good ups and really good downs. Like, you'll have times where it's just the best feeling in the world because you have a bird that's flying wonderfully and then it gets hit by a car. And you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm going back to ratting for a while.
And these birds are not cheap. Not to cut you off, but just real quick, these birds are not cheap, right?
So earlier, before we went live, we were talking a little bit about like goshawks and like the pricing on those guys. Those are much more expensive than, the birds that like Harris hawks, for example.
Okay.
Yeah. Fortunately, in the United States, also, we have the option to do wild take. So we can capture, wild birds of prey, and it's essentially free to get the bird. Although you quickly learn that nothing about falconry is free. But it's essentially free to get the bird. You're not paying for the bird. But it's still, I think the most costly the most costly thing about falconry is time. The time invested in training and trapping and locating. And
what about feed?
Feed, whenever you're first getting into it, it can be, kind of expensive because your bird's not hunting. You're not really the bird's not bringing anything to the table. But after a while, of hunting regularly and having the dogs hunting regularly, you're not really paying for food anymore. I have a good friend who is also a falconer and has sight hounds, Magyars, like I do. And, she has just tons of jackrabbits in her freezer, so she never pays for hawk food. So it's really convenient.
Anytime you can get discount on food or free food or anything like that, feeding anything definitely helps. Definitely. How much do you do earthwork with your Patterdale?
Yeah, so pretty much the extent of my earthwork experience, like we were talking about earlier, is the nutria. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to get out east or to do any, groundhogs or anything like that. So I've gone and done nutria a handful of times. I've gone up to Oregon and, stayed for a couple of days and gone hunting. There's a couple people up there that have been very generous and allowed me to go up there. Emily actually knew them before I did, and I was invited to one of their group hunts, and I've kind of just kept going on with her. Of course, I've gone up there a couple different times and hunted for a couple. Typically, we'll stay up there for a couple days, hunt for a day. The nutria, despite what a lot of people might believe, can do a lot of damage to the dogs. And
yeah, I was gonna say, ain't they like some like how don't they get like 40, 50 pounds, some of them?
I would have to get back to you on that. That seems pretty large. I think the largest they might get that big. I don't think they do. I think typically they're probably within like 5 pounds to a really big one would maybe be like maybe 30. They might get bigger than that. That's just kind of my estimated guess. They can get, pretty large, I know. Definitely as big as the dogs and bigger. But when you're working with a 15-pound dog, that's not really, saying a whole lot.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I was thinking, what was I thinking of? I was thinking of something else when I said 30, 40 pounds. But I'm looking at them now. Yeah, just big rats.
Yeah, they're
big water rats.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have none of that like where I'm at. There's no.
Yeah.
There might be rats that swim or big water rats, but they're not nutria.
Yeah. they a lot of the nutria, well, actually all of the nutria in the United States were introduced for fur trapping. So they're an invasive species. They don't have a season. They were introduced. I don't know the time frame exactly. I believe it was in like the 30s to like 60s probably. They were introduced for fur trapping because there was like a really high demand for all of these like coats and stuff. And then that kind of nutria fell out of favor. So the populations just exploded in areas like in Oregon. We're starting to get some here in California. I'm from Louisiana, so they're just like fucking everywhere in Louisiana. Texas has a lot of them. All through kind of the southern states, they've just really like thrived in that type of environment.
Yeah, guys, I'm back. My camera's being a little screwy. But I did hear that how you guys just said they got loose from the fur trade. I've heard that before too.
Yeah, they didn't just get loose; they were purposefully released to like be trapped there. They and then now they're a huge.
They released them just to trap them.
They released them. Yeah, they released them in an environment that they would do well in, so that they wouldn't have to take care of them, so they could just trap them from the wild, and they would reproduce and take care of themselves and then be trapped in a couple years.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys went over this when I was out, but when a dog enters the hole for a nutria, like on average, is it like going to go like 10 feet down, like straight across? Like,
yeah, we haven't covered any parts of like actually hunting nutria, but I can kind of like walk you through it. Like I said, of course, there's a disclaimer that there are people who are much better equipped to like kind of go over this topic. I have a very limited, experiences. I have very limited experiences with hunting them, but I can go over what I have done. So typically, when the dogs, how I've done it whenever I've been out, we'll go out as a group. We'll all bring our dogs and we'll kind of have one dog cast out and go and check all of the holes. There's been a pretty big, I would say, like variation in kind of like how much we have to dig, how much has to be, moved, or how far back the den is. So if I'm not mistaken, typically kind of how it works is there's a body of water, typically a very small like irrigation ditch that has kind of like or not shelves, but like ledges. And the nutria will go in there right at the water level so they can escape really quickly if there's predators. Sometimes the holes are underground or underwater. And a lot of times in those types of situations, the dogs will be in water, kind of like, in the picture there, they'll be in water and you'll have to actually dig out because they can't go any further without going underwater. I know a big problem with some of the dogs up there hunting that they've experienced is like dogs getting like water in their noses and stuff from fighting in the ground and underwater.
Yeah.
It can be definitely a challenge. I know not firsthand, I haven't been out there when it happened, but I know people have lost dogs to drowning and cave-ins. I'm trying to remember the exact time that this was when we took this picture, but if I'm not mistaken, the den is just right to would be her left in that picture, and she's like coming out for air because she can't go any further without us digging in anymore. It's pretty intense, but the nutria will go. They'll have a tube, and the nutria will go in and then go up and build kind of like a den. So and it's like a shelf in there. Yeah. And they that a lot of times that's where they'll be, which can be dangerous for their dog, for dogs going in there, because instead of being on their same level, the dogs kind of like have to look up at them. And we actually experienced this just the last time we were there. We had 2 dogs go in and just get fucking like ravaged by just like a big nutria, because the dogs like are at a disadvantage from kind of like the level that they're at. Mm-hmm. As far as digging goes, I know that I think the most we've ever done while I was up there was probably like 3 to 4 feet. I know that they go deeper than that. The last time I was up there, I literally could shovel the dirt off of the top of the den with my hand because it was about that thick. So it really varies on how well established the dens are. They're building these dens in areas that are constantly, being changed through agriculture by the farmers and stuff. So, and just by nature with erosion, because they're building by water, things are going to change as far as like the depth and how deep they are and how deep they need to go to really be safe. So it's pretty variable.
Yeah, the water element I think is something that like makes it complete to a different place compared to working groundhogs.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. The little water is, I mean, it's the same thing with like coons by the water. The coon will try to drown you.
Yeah, but a raccoon can't like go in and exit and dive through holes. Like this is almost like beaver-like behavior.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It changes the game for the dogs. It changes the game for the people because you're in water a lot of the time. You're standing in water when you're out there, like trying to find them. I know I'm like typically, myself, the other people that I've gone up there with will be like in the water looking for dens and stuff that the dogs could potentially miss, or for dens that are just barely under the water. Because it really is just very variable as to how they're going to build and where they're going to build their dens.
I could also see it being a lot harder starting a green dog on Nutria than groundhogs, just because like that water element. I could see like a green dog not being used to that, just going in a hole, being like, crap, I'm swimming now.
Yeah, I like I said, I can't speak to really like the general experience. I've only really done 2 dogs on Nutria. Both of my dogs seem to be pretty natural at detection and doing it. Critter is much more she's just a bayer pretty much. She doesn't really engage, unfortunately, which is the reason that I wanted to get another dog. And Creature is it was his first time. He did pretty well. He jumped on a couple. I can't remember how many he killed, but it was a good number, especially given it was his first time doing it.
Yeah, Woods, can you go to the pictures he sent of the Nutria lined up?
Of the who?
You go to the picture he sent of the Nutria lined up. Like I think he had some pictures of the Nutria like lined up on a row. Dead picture of Nutria, give people perspective at least.
Let me check, because some of them, it was the
But either way, I could see that being a lot of fun. Like, so when you're digging, generally speaking, in your experience, has it been like pretty soft soil, pretty rocky?
Like I said, where they build and how they build varies a lot. There was, there have been times where it was pretty easy. The last time we went up there, it was actually very easy. Like I think the guy we went out with, Zach Good, he said that it was one of the easiest digs he'd done. The first time we dug, and then the second time it was like a couple inches of soil, so it was like no problem at all to get through it. And then one of the previous trips we went up there, the ground was like one of the digs, it was like gravel and like rock, and it was very, very hard to get through. And then another time it was like just like straight like a rock layer in the soil that it was like almost impossible to break through. I think we ended up using like a pickaxe at one point just to be able to get through the ground down to the dogs.
What was the deepest you ever had to dig?
For the Nutria, I think the most was probably 4 or 5 feet. Not too bad. I know that there have been times where they've had to dig deeper than that. I just wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, so it sounds like also like it looks like the Nutria are almost even more communal than groundhog, because groundhogs are pretty communal. He'll definitely get in a den and get a couple in there. But I feel like every time I see someone hunting for Nutria with terriers, I rarely ever see a picture of the guy holding one nutria, like rarely.
Yeah, they, not only are they like pretty prevalent up there, a lot of times from what I've seen, there'll be multiple in a den. I'm trying to remember, I can't remember exactly, but I want to say in this picture, we had gotten there and it was like, I'm sure there's a word for this, but it was like an area that is seasonally flooded. So the nutria were still there, but it was dry. It was completely dry at this location. And I think there were 8. There were like 7 or 8 in that one den. And then I've gone out, we've had other people's dogs down where there's been 1 or 2 in the den. It really varies about, kind of how many are going to be in there.
Yeah, that is still pretty cool though, honestly. Like,
Yeah,
I also heard that one of the reasons Hurricane Katrina was so bad is because nutria were doing a lot of damage to the levees when it kind of hit.
Yeah, I think I was like 2 when that happened. So I'm not super familiar with that, but I will say I know that nutria do a lot of damage to levees. So it doesn't sound it doesn't sound out of the question. I know they do a lot of damage to just ditches in Louisiana. They'll cause like roads to kind of break down in the corner or on the edges of the roads, on back roads. They just do a lot of damage. And not only do they do damage to the roads, in this picture here, I'm standing in a field. They grow a lot of grass, like grass seeds, in the area in Oregon where we were hunting and where we do go hunting. And the nutria, they just completely like decimate areas of the field, because I can't remember exactly how much it is, but I want to say they eat like 1/3 to 2/3 of their body weight every day. And, these farmers are out here growing grass that's just getting mowed down. You'll go into the field and there'll be like semicircles on the edges by the water where the nutria have just mowed down the edges of the field.
Yeah, that's crazy. Have you ever gotten a dog get a nutria above ground?
Above ground? Yeah. One of the times we went up there, I know Raven, my friend Emily's dog, got one in like a blackberry bush. She went in there, kind of heard some traipsing about in there, and then we heard one screaming that she got. And then the last time we were up there, I know we saw a couple, but I mean, those little fuckers like hit the water so fast when you see them a lot of the times. We saw a couple just on the edges, and then my dog Critter flushed one out of like some grass on the edge of the water. So I know it definitely happens. The preferred method, I think, would probably be to dig to them, but it's always nice when you get a freebie.
I mean, they're flat out invasive. So I mean, for the groundhog, I feel like a dead nutria is a good nutria.
Oh, so. Definitely, yeah. And the farmers are super appreciative. They like having the nutria gone, obviously, because they are such a pest and a problem.
One of the reasons I was asking about getting one above ground is because like a lot of times when a dog, especially like my lurcher, if you got a groundhog above ground, it's just done. Or I was kind of wondering if nutria are kind of one-dimensional like that, to where like they can kind of do damage in like a hole in a tight space in the water, and then if they're just on land, they're kind of screwed.
Yeah, I don't know that I would say that necessarily for like the terriers. I like for the smaller dogs, maybe for a bigger dog. Zach, the man who lives up there that we've gone hunting with, has I'm not really sure what type of dog it is. It's some type of like maybe mastiff lab mix that just like fucking ripped one out of a hole last time and didn't have any problems doing it. But the nutria can definitely do damage above ground as well. I would say they're probably a little bit easier to kill than a groundhog because again, this is only what I've heard. I've heard that groundhogs don't really have much of a neck, so it can be kind of hard for the dogs to get a good grip on it. Whereas, the nutria do have a neck, but they, they can still inflict a good bit of damage.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Even looking at the ones that you're holding right there, you can see a longer neck, and if you showed a picture of like that groundhog, it's like a bulldog. There really isn't.
And the ones in that picture are actually not very big. They they get a good bit bigger than that. I would say probably twice to 3 times as big as those that I'm holding. Those are young ones. They're like teenage ones, I guess. Not very old.
What do you guys do after you get them? Are you just like chucking them, or are you guys utilizing them?
I've saved a lot of
like Marshall eats those.
I would not eat a nutria unless
I've eaten a nutria. Yeah. They're not bad.
You had it? You ate it?
Yeah, the last time we were up there, one of the times we were up there, we were camping and I brought some back and cleaned it and grilled it, and it wasn't bad. Just put some can't believe it's not butter on there, and it was pretty good.
I can't believe it's not butter. You put margarine on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's very lean. It's almost like cottontail.
You didn't put no other seasonings, just butter?
I think we put some I can't even remember what it was. Like maybe some steak seasoning or something like that on there.
We'll cut you some slack. We'll say you put tagine on it or something. You're good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
I was gonna say also, I guess for you can just turn it all into hawk food if you get it back too.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people feed it to their dogs. Unfortunately, hawks are they would eat it, yes, but it's a very, very lean meat and they burn through it very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Even cottontails, they you have to be careful because you'll feed your bird a certain amount of jackrabbit and how long that will last them. As far as caloric intake. And then you'll feed them cottontail of the same amount or more, and it burns through them way faster. Just because it doesn't have as much in it. It's not like a richer red meat.
That's interesting that you said that, because I know about rabbit starvation because of the lack of fat they have. But I didn't realize that it applied to birds like that, because I figured birds are just living off a lot of rabbits. But that's something new I just learned.
Is that true, Marshall? I heard you just say something about the starvation with rabbits. That's true that if a human only ate rabbits for so long, they would die?
So there's this movie called Call the Wild, Into the Wild, and this guy basically traveled in a van and stayed in the winter in Alaska, and they don't know exactly how he died. They found dead in the woods, but one of their theories is that he just lived off too many rabbits and it starved him out because there's no fat.
Interesting. Yeah, I know people have done that with their birds before, with cottontails. I don't know anyone who has actually done it firsthand, but
I heard that what you just said, but then I heard there was some people talking on and some people saying it wasn't true. Then some people were saying it was whatever. It's the set if you depends on the type of rabbit you're eating.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But I don't know.
Well, a jackrabbit isn't. Despite saying jackrabbit isn't actually a rabbit, it's a hare. So they're a little different than just plain cottontails.
I think we might actually have the picture of your 2 dogs on the hare. Not hare, I mean the jackrabbit. I think you.
Yeah.
We'll have to look a little bit.
I sent a couple. Yeah.
That was a pretty cool picture. That's one of my little off topic, but that is definitely one of my goals with my lurcher. We actually in New England, closer to Maine, but potentially here we have snowshoe hare. So I really want to try and do some coursing on snowshoe hare. Yeah,
that would be really cool. It's definitely a goal of mine to make it to an area where they have snowshoe, just because it would just be interesting to see how different they are than the jackrabbits that we have here in California. Because I've heard that there are differences, but
I've gotten a few leads now on some industrial parks that might have them in Maine. So when I go back to Maine with my lurcher, I'm going to try and look those out and check them out. That kind of actually brings me to my next question is that when you first got your Pat, how did you get about utilizing it for falconry?
I'm so sorry. What was the last part of that?
When you first got your Pat, how did you go about utilizing it for falconry?
Yeah. So fortunately, despite her like lust to kill everything else, she never really had a lot of drive towards my hawks. She was almost weary of them, which is a very common theme I found amongst the dogs that I've had, and like kind of the dogs that I've like fostered, is that they tend to be pretty weary of the hawks. Some of them are, some of them are not. Some of them just flat out want to kill them, and some of them are fine with it. So fortunately, she was one that was very calm, didn't really need too much encouragement not to kill the hawk. I kind of started incorporating her into falconry, originally not even hunting. I do, for my job, I do falconry-based bird abatement. So I'm using trained birds of prey to minimize damages done by lots of different birds, primarily, ravens, crows, ducks, pigeons, things like that. So originally I was, mostly using her for that. I got her for ratting, but I was also using her, with the bird to kind of get the ducks off the water for the hawks that I was flying at the time, and to chase geese off. It was pretty easy. I was working with them both all day, every day for, 12 hours. And even if they hated each other, they just kind of worked through it until they, made a team.
Have you ever had one of your birds go at one of your dogs? Like
Yeah, about 10 hours ago, I had a bird go after one of my dogs. It went after Critter, actually. I'm flying a new little male Harris hawk, and had her out trying to flush rabbits for him, and he decided that he was in the mood for Patterdale instead of Cottontail, and grabbed a hold of like one of her ears and the back of her neck, and thankfully she didn't trip out too hard, and I just went over there and picked him up off of her.
That's one thing I feel like I worry more about a terrier, is the terrier taking it personally in that circumstance. Because I have friends of dachshunds who use them like that. The dachshunds are more a mixing soft baying dog. So when the hawks go up and slam those dachshunds, they're kind of like, oh, I'm scared of you, whatever. But I if my male Patterdale, I mean, I had him decent around most animals, but if a cat were to walk up and swat him, he would be like, okay, I guess you gotta die. Like that was kind of his mindset. Yeah,
that's what I would think. Like none of them actually turned around and just ended the bird.
I haven't had that problem. I've
those birds are smart as shit too, Woods. They'll grab a dog by the muzzle and stop him.
Exactly that. And
sure.
I'm trying to find a way to put this where kind of where it doesn't sound too like bitchy. But I think a lot of times people, when they think they have hard terriers, they think that they have dogs that don't listen, and they kind of use that as an excuse. So I definitely have made like a very big commitment to having my dogs listen to me, and not just because they might be bred to kill blindly and not kind of ask questions later mentality. I don't really put up with that as far as like working, especially working every day in public settings. They have to be smart enough to kind of like know to look to me for almost permission to do things, because obviously I'm not going to have them murder a Muscovy in front of a family of 4.
Yeah.
So it kind of, it kind of just depends on the situation, and she's pretty good about that.
Yeah, it betters your relationship too. Like,
definitely
kind of handle and be able to work them. Like my Pat, when I did rat abatement, like just because I'm also a trainer, like I got to the point where I really worked him hard on his heel. I worked him hard on knowing when to locate and stuff, and it almost made my life easier because I just have him in a heel, and we knew when he got at the heel, you're going to work.
Yeah,
you go back into the heel, and it got to the point of just having that really good handle. Like everyone's going to tell you that putting a handle on your dog is going to cut its drive down. And to be honest, like I find that to be absolute BS. If putting a handle on your dog makes
Amy
it work,
Park Biggs, comment.
Yeah.
Amy Park Biggs, 1 of 1. Comment your opinion on that.
Oh yeah, no, we'll go. I'll go back and forth with them about it.
I think that that's the biggest load of shit ever. whenever people say that, you know, you have your dog has a handle, you have a handle on your dog, you're cutting its drive, or if you can put a handle on your dog doesn't have enough drive. You know, my Magyar Clementine, I'm running her in areas that are sometimes, you know, pretty close to fences, pretty close to highways. And it's definitely a risk. And it's a risk that I'm taking with the knowledge that something could potentially go wrong. But I can call her off of a jackrabbit if I need to. I can tell her to, you know, to come back to me, essentially. You know, she has good recall. And, you know, you're not going to sit here and tell me that a dog who's caught as many jackrabbits as she has is not drivey enough to do the job that she was bred for, and also not have recall.
I 100% agree with you. I think at the end of the day, if putting a handle on your dog cuts its drive down, was the drive even there to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, if it cuts the drive down, then you have a cull. There's no reason to keep the fucking dog if you can't have a dog that has drive and also has a mind that can work through it.
Yeah, if I have a dog who's screaming and looking at the quarry, and I'd be like, okay, hey, sit, and I would make him sit. He's like, oh, I don't want to do this ever again. Then, like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, there have definitely been times where I've, you know, like given Critter or Creature, my dog, like I've told them to come back to me, and I know they're just like fucking like shooting daggers at me with their eyes.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, they do it because a lot of times, you know, especially with Critter, I think that she has kind of gotten to a point in her maturity that she almost can understand that I know better than her in a way. Like she can understand that I put her in situations where she's going to succeed, and I'm putting her in situations where I can see something that she can't. And at first, when I was first working with her, there really was like, there was not that connection, like absolutely not. And now that I've, now that I've done a lot of ratting with her, I've done a lot of off-leash ratting, I've done a lot of rabbit hunting and things like that. She's really, I think she's kind of come to, we have a better understanding of each other, I guess would be a good way to put it.
No, yeah. I mean, even today, I was actually working rabbits today, just for shits and giggles. Because with having the baby here, like I have so many rabbits around me, it's just the closest access I have on fur. And I had my one dog, Xena. She went probably 30 yards out on a rabbit, and I knew where he was going to circle back. So I told her to look right where I was at, and as soon as she lost it, she ran right back to me. He's like, "Okay, where did you see it?" And right back over there.
Yeah. What dog was that, Marshall?
That was my wife's dog, Xena. Henry was there too. The disadvantage with Henry and those rabbits, where I'm at in the woods, is that they know how to duck in low bushes, and he can only go so far in those bushes.
Yeah, he's big as shit.
Yeah. But so you actually work your Patterdale on rabbits too.
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I think he was talking about that a little. You went to go check on your baby, I think, Marshall, but he spoke about it. But you could speak about it again.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, I think for me, where I'm at, and I do have some people I know here who do the earth dog stuff and the rabbit dog stuff. For me, I feel like I'm just worried that I'll be in a soybean field and I'd be trying to find groundhogs, and then my dogs would do these crazy laps on rabbits, and then they come back gassed. That's the one thing that would concern me a little bit.
Yeah.
Or they just ding, because rabbits dash across the street. They'll go in, at least where I'm at. You know what I mean? My Patterdale, she goes at anything she sees pretty much. She's trying to grab it or trying to, pull to grab it. But yeah, like the rabbits dash around.
Rabbits in New England are heavily populated here. I don't know what it's like in California, but here they're heavily populated.
Yeah. Where I'm at specifically in California, we have just like an abundance of just about any type of quarry you could think of. I mean, just off the top of my head, we have a good number of pheasants. We have a ton of quail. We have cottontails. We have jackrabbits. We have just innumerable geese and ducks. Just lots of different things in this area specifically. And our rabbit populations they did take a small dive. I would just say a dive. It wasn't small. With the rabbit disease that came through a couple years ago, but they're definitely building back now. I was just out the other night hunting with Emily, and we came to a corner and there was probably 15 or 20 cottontails standing in the road looking at us. Like there are definitely pockets with really, really high populations.
Oh yeah.
What about other game like coon, fisher, badger, coyotes?
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of raccoons here. I've hunted them with the dogs a fair amount. I don't believe we have fisher here. I'm pretty sure we don't have fisher here.
Yeah, fisher's kind of a northern thing.
Yeah, and we have some badgers. I've seen like 2 that got hit by cars. Not really enough to go out and say like I'm gonna hunt badger today and then go find one.
Yeah.
It's definitely about an hour and a half away in Reno. There's a bunch of badger. I haven't gotten on any, but it's definitely a goal of mine to go out there and do that. What else do we have here? That's about it. I mean, we have lions and bears, but that's not really something that I
would recommend it.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so I just find it cool too. Also, that you're able to utilize the terrier and your sight hound as far as getting rabbits. That is one thing. Like I said, I think about doing it, but at the same time, I'm just worried that it's going to affect my earthwork too much.
I would say to that like it goes back a lot to what we talked about earlier, which is like mental maturity in the dogs and understanding time and place.
Yeah.
I can say I hunt a fairly wide range of things. I've never had a moment where I was like, man, I wish I didn't run rabbits with my dog because now it's not looking for raccoons.
Yeah.
Or, man, I wish I didn't hunt raccoons with my dog because now it's not looking for rabbits. I think that it's very situational and that the dogs are intelligent enough to and should be paying attention to you enough at least to kind of know what's happening.
Yeah, the one thing I keep more of an eye on, because like I've done a lot of ratting myself too. So like in the Maryland, DC area, in Boston, in the parks, I end up pushing so many cottontails when I'm trying to get rats. And it is wild. Like I'll be going ratting in one spot, and I remember I kicked a bush, and there's 8 like a shootout around.
Yeah.
And for there, it's just tough because of the urban environment. If it wasn't so urban, I really would just let my dog just go full throttle on the rabbits there. But like Wood said, if I did, there's potential of like him getting that close to a car. I can call my dog off for the most part, but it just creates a lot of frustration if I'm calling him off of 8 rabbits and then I'm just like, go for that rat.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Henry definitely. If you're talking about Henry definitely listens.
Oh yeah, he listens, but like if I'm letting him go like that full sprint and be like, no, you can't do that anymore, he's gonna be like, God damn it. Like he'll come back and listen. But like for him, like the ultimate thing for a sight hound is that chase. And the rats will give it a little bit, but those rabbits, they're really fun for them.
Yeah, that's my my Magyar definitely is. She's interested in rats. She's caught plenty, but she is much more driven for jackrabbits and cottontails, and she's caught a ton of ground squirrels too, but mostly rabbits is where it's at for her.
Yeah, I would be going to town on ground squirrels if we had them here. We only have like the northern gray squirrels, the tree squirrels, but if we had the smaller populations of like the burrowing ground squirrels like we did here, like have ground squirrels, this is totally off topic from what we're talking about, but have ground squirrels always kind of been like omnivorous? Because I see all these dumb Facebook posts being like, they're eating this. Like,
yeah, I saw one like not that long ago, and it was like, scientists discover ground squirrels are omnivorous, and like everyone has known that for fucking years. And like apparently it's really easy to discover something. You just find something out that's already been known. But yeah, I think that it's pretty well known and widely accepted at this point. That
gray squirrels are too. I've seen gray squirrels eat like chicken bones. I've literally seen them like take out the trash, go out in the trash bag, grab a chicken leg, and just eat it.
Out here?
Yeah,
squirrels out here will eat fucking anything.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of rodents are, very opportunistic, and they're not gonna turn down a.
Yeah, and rodents are survivors, so at the end of the day, they'll do what they gotta do.
Yeah, and I mean, we've known for a long time, even tree squirrels will eat like deer antlers and stuff. Like, that's not vegetation, so.
Yeah, porcupines will too for that salt. They like that velvet on there.
Yeah. I read an article not that long ago about porcupines that were like doing a lot of damage to cars because they were like eating the tires off of the cars.
I'll see a lot.
Pretty wild.
I've heard about that too. Every now and then I'll see some dead ones by me. We supposedly have a pretty big population of porcupines here. I've been trying to avoid them at all costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they fuck. At the brake lines out here, there's like rats and I don't know, groundhogs and other shit like that will bite at people's brake lines.
Oh, that's not fun. Yeah, one of my friends who she has treeing walkers. We were out running her dogs, and I had my terriers out with her. But she was talking about how she had chipmunks that like lived in her car that would like chew up all the fucking wires in her car.
Yeah, it might be chipmunks. We got chipmunks out here, but it actually happened to one of my mother's cars. And when we brought it in, something bit the shit up.
Wow.
She was over at my brother's house where it's he lives a lot more forest and closer to farms and forests over where he lives. But yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue.
Oh, Jamie had this question. It's been up for a minute. Where did little Patterdale come from? How she bred?
That's a very good question. I know I touched on it earlier a little bit, but she's from a breeder in Modesto. I think he's kind of gotten out of Patterdales now. But I would be lying if I told you his name. I cannot remember what his name was. After getting her and dealing with her for the first couple months, I probably blocked it out intentionally because she was so horrible. But I wouldn't recommend him even if I knew his name. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it sounds like he was a handler. Like dogs like that kind of stink because they take a lot of work, but it just prepares you so much more for the future. Where if you have like a situation where you got to work on tweaking a dog from another handler, at least you have that experience where you can default back to something.
Yeah, your next dog will be 100 times easier because of what you have.
Yeah, there's no way it could be worse. So it will probably be much easier. I would have to agree with you.
Yeah, you get them from get your dog from a legit, good breeder.
Yeah, and I talk a lot of shit about Critter, but she is, she has been very good at what she does do. What she does, she is very good and, very true with what she's doing. She's very good at ratting, which I consider to be a pretty low bar for Patterdales. They were bred for a lot more than just ratting. She's very good at that. She's very good at every process that goes into that. I use her for a lot of other things like the abatement. So it's not like she's just like not a dog that I want to deal with. It's because of like her talent. It's just unfortunate that she doesn't have more of a wide scope of things that, she can do and things that I can do with her. Her biggest downfall is her temperament is just very, very untrustworthy. She has a luxating patella, which is very unfortunate. That's going to be an expensive surgery to fix.
Yeah, that does suck. That's just a small dog issue, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. And I'm hoping, based off of her temperament and other things, I'm hoping that there aren't more issues that arise in the future. Because there seems to be a very large proportion of like the Patterdale community that doesn't do health testing or anything like that. So I'm hopeful that I won't have any issues with her in the future, but I guess we will have to see how that goes.
Yeah, and also I hate to break your heart, but a lot of the times when it comes to luxating patella, ratting on the concrete is not going to help you.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Unfortunately, I don't care. Like I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is too. Also, you keep your dog lean, so that does help. Like, imagine people have these pets, they get fatter and they have luxating patella. They probably have to do surgery like within months after they get their dog fat like that. Yeah,
there are. Most dogs are just like fucking morbidly obese, which is very disgusting. And even if they're not born with issues, they're going to develop them because of how obese they are. So keeping her in good shape is definitely gonna hopefully assist with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that will definitely help a lot. It's a huge plus. But at the end of the day, like if she loves doing what she's doing, I would just keep doing
it. Yeah. She enjoys it. I enjoy it. Eventually, I will get the surgery done. I'm just kind of waiting for hopefully that to happen sometime in the near future.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead, Marshall.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that picture that's on Google, the little small one, kind of just breaks it down a little bit of what that kind of is with that kneecap floating and moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read a little bit on it, see what it is. Now, what with your Yag? What do you home with your Yag that's like different from? Do you use them for the same exact thing, or do you use your Yag for something different, bigger game? I know some people are using Yags for like small hogs and shit these days.
Yeah. So I he's not even a year old yet. He hasn't.
You did mention that,
He's not even a year old yet. I'm definitely giving him a little bit more time to mature before I do like real hard stuff with him. I've done the nutria with him. He did a very good job. Hopefully, in the near future, I'll be able to get him on some coons and see how that goes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you plan on doing in the since he's so young? What do you plan on doing with him in the future, or hoping to do with him in the future?
Yeah, it would definitely be nice to get him on some hogs at some point. That my goal with him was essentially to just have a better, have an easier dog to work with that could also do the same things that Critter does, but I can have in situations that I don't have to be constantly stressed about, him going to bite another dog or biting another person. Fortunately, he has been very, very good as far as his temperament. He's never met a dog he didn't like. He's never met a person he didn't like. He's very easy to work with, very trainable. I really don't have a bad thing to say about him.
How young was he when you got him?
He was 4 months old.
Yeah, so you got a blank slate as opposed to their dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's very whenever I first got him, he was, he really hadn't been exposed to much, and I've kind of gone through everything with him. Critter, on the other hand, my Patterdale, I got her when she was 9 months old. So there was plenty of time to fuck her up before I got her. Unfortunately.
And it sounds like she was just in the cage for 9 months.
Yeah. I'm amazed that like her litter mates survived, because I'm sure they were just as bad as she was. I'm surprised that like any of them made it out of that situation. And seems to be alive. Yeah.
What was you gonna say, Marshall? Sound like you was gonna say something.
I was just gonna say, do we have any more pictures of his that we can just roll through?
Let me see. Some of them, the format was acting up, like they wasn't PNG. You know what I mean? But let me see which ones we have.
I mean, either way, it's just good having you on, man. It's definitely good talking to someone from a different state. I don't think we've had there you go. I don't think we've had a Californian on here yet, so that's been kind of cool.
Yeah.
Somebody's in California.
Yeah,
I don't claim that state, so I don't want to make that comment.
You said what?
I said I didn't. This is the first time we've actually had someone from California or a Californian. I don't know if he is exactly from California, so I didn't want to. They can claim that state if he's not from there.
I'm from Louisiana originally.
Yeah.
I moved out to California a couple of years ago.
So the rats that you're getting are primarily roof rats?
I would say it's a mix.
Because I've seen like in those places where you're at in Cali and stuff like that, like the roof rats are more like the boreal kind of tree type rat, whereas like the Norway rats, they're kind of a little bit everywhere. Like they're on the ground, they're big, they're fighting. Yeah,
the Norway rats, I would say probably 90% of what we get are Norways.
That's fun.
Yeah, like a lot of them are Norway rats in parks and areas like that. We get roof rats every once in a while. There have been times where, we've gotten a lot more than the Norways, but primarily it's Norways.
No, that's pretty cool. What's the most rats you think you got in the night?
Oh,
you can guess it.
I have no idea. I can give you an average.
Average is cool.
Yeah, an average is probably so the ratting that, I mean, you're aware of this. I don't have to explain it to you, because some people will be like, yeah, like I see these people on farms, they get 3,000. Like, you know, the ratting we're doing is, as you know, it's more difficult because it's in the city.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, I mean, on a good night, we're probably getting 20, 25, 30.
That's a good average.
And there are nights when we get 40 and 50, like in certain locations that are just really high populations. But, you know, on average, we're getting maybe 10. You know, as long as the dogs, to me, it's less about the number of rats that we get and more about kind of my mental log of, yeah, my dog could have done better in that situation. As long as my dog is doing everything that I think they should be doing to the highest level, or to at least to a level that that I deem acceptable, I'm happy. A good night is when I go out there, like last night when I went ratting, I was like on my way home and I was like, yeah, like there were no situations where I was like, wow, he really should have had that, or wow, he missed that and he really should have had that, he shouldn't have missed it, or, you know, he should have located better. And as long as I don't have too many of those moments, I'm pretty happy. You know, the numbers don't really matter as much.
Do you just enjoy the fast pace of ratting? Is that why you like it?
I do enjoy I'm a very impatient person, like very impatient. I enjoy moving on very quickly. I enjoy like kind of how fast paced it is, how it's something I can do a lot of time or a lot of days, because, you know, you'll work all day and then a lot of other activities, you know, I'm not going out and hunting rabbits at fucking 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night. And it's definitely made me, you know, I've made some really good friends doing it, because believe it or not, there's not a lot of people who want to go out all night and look for rats with you, sadly. So I've met some really good friends through ratting and through having the dogs. So that's been a very nice perk of it as well.
Are you kind of like targeting like kind of like behind? So like in DC and like I guess somewhat Boston, but mostly DC, I'm getting high populations of rats behind like restaurant alleys. Like that's kind of like my go-to as far as like high populations. Like we'll do like some huge dumpster kills, or like we'll get dogs on like 40 to 50 rats in a dumpster.
Yeah.
And, are you guys mostly like in it looks like you guys are mostly in kind of like parking lot type spaces in between cans?
Yeah. You know, I've heard Emily say many times, I've said many times how like envious we were. I think every time we pass a fucking dumpster, like I look in it just because I'm hopeful. Unfortunately, that's not really realistic for, you know, where we are. For some reason, the rats just aren't in the dumpsters as much. I have checked lots of fucking dumpsters, and I have yet to find one with more than 1 or 2 rats in it. Most of the areas we're finding them at are going to be parks. I've found them around different like individual restaurants, like Del Tacos. Sometimes they'll have landscaping. Taco Bell's. Apparently they really like Mexican food. I don't know.
No, Taco Bell definitely is a communal rat spot. Definitely got some rats.
Yeah. Jack in the Box has a lot. You know, anywhere that's like unclean in a parking lot, I'll stop and look.
No, yeah, you would have a ball coming to DC, New York. I'm always trying to get you guys like in Cali and stuff to come over here, because you guys have the advantage of being able to have like a dog on carry on. So yeah, you guys can actually shoot over here and do that.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I've been talking about just like making a trip, like just like a day trip and going out there and hunting like all day, going like on groundhogs, going ratting, and then flying back.
That's doable. Yeah, especially in the spring. If you did that in the spring, you would be good to go.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun.
Olwood just kind of chucked a little random comment. I don't know if he meant to, but Olwood's one of the guys who went ratting with me. He brought out this like 9 to 10-year-old Staffy bull, and this dog just clicked in hard on ratting. Like one day he just killed 1 or 2 rats wandering around with us, and we found that dumpster with the good 30 to 40 rats, and we put them in there, and it was like chucking a chainsaw in there. He was just blowing through them.
Yeah, I think you sent me
that was him.
A video or something of that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, you sent that video to me too.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Emily says, "Say when, Marshall."
How about right now? Actually, not right now. I got a kid, but otherwise, yeah, I'm down. We just gotta plan it out, especially
give it a couple months
out for next summer. Boston's a good spot too. I'm still getting more familiar with the spots
for ratting.
Yeah.
We just gotta go to like downtown Chinatown. There's a million restaurants out there. It's crazy.
I know for a fact in Boston, like I just gotta explore it a little bit more and hit spots.
Yeah, you go downtown. There's rats. There's too many rats.
We'll do that soon. I mean, you also got I guess you probably got them too, but we have. I didn't realize how many urban coyotes we have in Boston until you showed me that video of them at least like dodging traffic in and out. But I guess in Cali you probably have that same issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of urban coyotes. There's a field that I go to. Actually, also yesterday, whenever right before that the bird bound a critter, I look up. I don't know where the fuck my mind was, but I was not there. And I turn around and there's 3 coyotes probably 50 feet away from me just watching me, which is pretty common for that field and for, fields around here. There's actually a field not that far from here that I was real late in the afternoon. I brought my bird out and I was walking out there and a pack of I don't know how many it was now, probably 4 or 5 coyotes just trot past me, go into a little neighborhood. And then probably 5 minutes later, I'm walking out of the field and I just hear this horrible fucking sound. And one of the coyotes is carrying a cat that's screaming and the other ones are just running behind it, following it back to the field. They just gone in there and found dinner in one of the little neighborhood cats.
Is that a worry for you if you're smaller dogs about the coyotes in your area?
I mean, typically whenever I'm out in the field, I try to keep somewhat of an eye, on the dogs. I also go out with bigger dogs like the sight hounds, which
the sight hounds do help with
makes me feel a little bit more secure. I'd be lying if I said that I haven't wished a couple times that Critter would go with the coyotes, but I've been pretty fortunate thus far. And haven't had any run-ins where they actually really wanted to get the dogs, or
we'll say allegedly with that one. Allegedly, Critter might get eaten by a coyote. Allegedly,
yeah. There's coyotes everywhere out here.
It's so weird how much there's I've been here probably about a year, and I moved here from Maryland. Maryland's 6-7 hours from here, and everything's just so much different. It's crazy.
Yeah,
as far as just coyote populations, as far as just the different types of wildlife and what you're going to see. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I've been wanting for a while now to get some other sight hounds to run coyotes with out here. The valley is a good area. We have lots of nice open fields for it.
So would you just get a straight up stag hound for your area, or the Saluki stag cross,
or greyhounds?
Straight gray.
Greyhounds. I like greyhounds. I think that you can't beat a good greyhound. You can't beat a good bull lurcher. I don't really have anything against stag hounds. I just have never really considered them, I guess.
Yeah, I'm looking more into the stag hound route to cross back to my way, just because of one, the thicker hair for cold tolerance. I feel cold tolerance is probably a big thing here, and two, just the size and intimidation factor for yotes here. I feel for here it's just I even have had I would see in the video, but I'm a dog trainer by profession. I had 2 of my younger board and trains in my backyard at about 7 p.m. and I had a coyote try to hop in and get them.
Yeah,
climb the fence and go attack my mid-sized 7-month old dogs.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a danger, and I know some people have put coyote rollers and stuff around their backyards. I would much prefer to just have a dog that could kill them.
Yeah, I wonder would it have to be like an 8-foot fence of a roller? Like I see people with those rollers, and like I remember like I had a client who had it for his dog who was just an escape artist, and this dog figured out how to get his elbows on the roller and just flip over.
Yeah, I'm not a coyote. I couldn't tell you. Like I really don't know.
They're just too smart when it comes to hopping and jumping in spaces. But like, I guess if it's a tall enough fence, those rollers might work effectively.
Yeah, I would say like a tall enough fence. Well, I mean, with a tall enough fence, you don't need a coyote roller. But I'm sure that there is like a standard size that it's most effective with.
My fence is 6 foot, and in that video you can see the coyote next to it, and I feel like that coyote could clear my fence easily.
Yeah.
So easy. 6 feet ain't shit. They jump on top of like rocks and shit like that that high, just walking life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was recently in New York, and we found a coyote den, and then you look down, there's like probably about just several different piles of bones. So obviously they're just feasting on deer and stuff. Several just spines everywhere, ribs everywhere. Coyotes is just living right by the water. So I'm pretty sure Biggs is about to go take care of them, though. He got a couple big dogs. Can do that.
Yeah, he's got the Pressas and he's got a lurcher. So that combination isn't a pretty good.
Yeah, he got Henry's brother Sam, right? Yeah.
He's got Sam.
Yep. Oh, Billy Houston, congrats on the groundhog, Ronald. Congrats, Marshall, on fatherhood. Shout out to you, Billy. Thank you.
Yeah.
For those who don't know why he's saying that, obviously Marshall just had.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I'm hopping on round 2 of feeding, so I will be back, guys.
All right.
And my Patterdale Sin that just turned a year, got on our first groundhog out there with Biggs and 101 Kennels. So we went out there hunting, and she's about a year. She got on her first couple groundhogs and went to work, did her thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's always a good feeling when you.
Yeah, it was definitely a good feeling. Definitely a fun time. That's Biggs right here in the comments saying hell yeah. And Biggs, I did see earlier that he was saying, Austin, he was talking to you in the comments. I don't know if you've seen it, but he said he wanted to talk to you more, on the flip side about the birds.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm pretty active on Facebook. You could definitely message me there if you want to talk about any like falconry stuff or anything else about the dogs or hunting.
Oh yeah, and Biggs is cut up kennels. Cut up kennels.
I think I might already have him on Facebook. I'll have to see. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably do. He's a big dog when it comes to the Patterdale world and then hunting in general.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Did any of the other pictures that I sent come through? I don't know if you kind of want to get more on.
They did, but they can't. Like I got them, but the format is messing them up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like it has to be it has to be PNG or JPG. It's the formats won't let me present them on
gotcha.
On StreamYard, or StreamYard won't let me present these formats, I should say.
Okay. Gotcha.
But which ones were you talking about?
I'm not sure. I sent a good deal of different ones.
You sent you sent the picture of a Brendo. It looked like a Brendo lecture.
Yeah, so that's actually the Magyar. Okay. I'll try to. Yeah, so that's the Magyar. They're pretty interesting. That's they have a very long history, and most people I think use them for rabbit hunting. They I don't know of anyone who's really used them for anything else off the top of my head. They're pretty good sized dogs. I mean, mine is 65 pounds, so they're pretty good sized, and they're pretty great for what they do. They're
They're
not.
like. Let me see if. Let me just. It's a Magyar Yager.
Yeah, Magyar Agar.
Yeah, Magyar Yager.
Yeah, they're not super common here in the States. One of my friends, Audrey, is really kind of one of the first people who started actively trying to bring them over here. Her and a man named Tom worked together to try to really like bring the dogs over here into the States. Now there's probably about maybe try Magyar Agar, Agar, because that dog showing up is a Vizsla.
They got it labeled as that. Magyar dog, generally first and anybody that.
Yeah, so it would be Magyaragar. There it is. First suggestion. Yep, that's them.
Yeah, because the one I seen in the pic you sent me obviously looked like this, the Brendo.
Yeah. A lot of people think they're lurchers just because some people think that they're greyhounds, but they have that look.
They look like lurchers or greyhounds.
Yeah.
I mean, if I seen one, I'm definitely. I would think. Until now, obviously, I might think, you know what I mean, different. But yeah, I would think it's a greyhound or a lurcher for sure.
Yeah, they're pretty interesting. I'd like to at some point see how they did on coyotes. I really have no frame of reference to know how they would do on them. Some of them are pretty hard, others are pretty soft. The one I have right now is, she's not a very hard dog. She's very good at what she does, which is catch rabbits, and rabbits don't really fight back, so she doesn't have to be hard.
Doesn't. I mean, I'm pretty sure they were originally bred for maybe thing, but it seems like they kind of been dumbed down over the years.
Yeah.
Gentle and loving companion. Yeah, it doesn't really say anything about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Any type of, just says like, well, gentle and loving family. It doesn't really say anything.
Yeah. So unfortunately, like in Europe, a lot of places banned field coursing, open field coursing on hares and rabbits. So it was, they can't really, they're not going to advertise dogs as being, hunting dogs whenever it's illegal. I want to say that they've decriminalized it now, but there for a while it was just flat out illegal to do it. I know in Hungary it was until like not that long ago.
Billy Houston says, not sure the whole topic. I like the Whippets, English breed.
Yeah. I've had some experience with Whippets. Definitely, if I got a Whippet, it would have to be the right Whippet. A lot of them tend to be very clingy dogs. And they can be very good at their jobs, but they can be very, very soft too. I know that a lot of people have nice Whippets, and they make really nice lurchers too. I know a lot of people breed them for like bull terriers, and they make nice little lurchers. But I don't know that I would have like a pure Whippet. At least I wouldn't have one from any of the dogs I've personally met. I've seen some online that were really nice before.
And that's pretty much what they do with a lot of dogs to make them better, is mix them with a bull terrier.
Yeah, definitely to make up. Yeah.
It's kind of
like a poodle. They want to breed everything to a poodle to make it better.
It's kind of like, but it also makes sense. I could see why you breed these certain dogs to a bull terrier to, you know what I mean, get certain results.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Whippet
game. What do you mean, Billy? Are you asking him about the Whippet game or
like what they hunt?
That's Billy Houston. He's he owns several Patterdales and been hunting for years and does a lot of things in the dog world. Things like that. Yeah. One of his cards right here.
Our furries game.
Yeah.
Nice.
He does a whole bunch of stuff. He got a couple Patterdales. Mason bloodline, same as mine. So yes, he's talking about the game, like the whipping game.
What they catch. So mostly with whippets, from what I've seen, they're doing a lot of cottontails. They're, whippets are smaller sighthounds, obviously, which is kind of where they get their draw. Is that they, they're smaller, so they are quicker with turns. They can have very explosive speed. So they're really nice for cottontails. I know people do jackrabbits with them. I know some people rat with them. I don't know that I would get one for ratting. That's like, that's like trying to hammer in a nail with a screwdriver. There's something better for the job. So but they are nice for what they do, which is predominantly like rabbits and stuff. But a lot of people breed them with terriers and, bull terriers, especially, I've seen a lot of, and they turn into nice catch dogs that are super helpful. In gaming. Is Marshall back or?
No, Marshall's still doing his thing.
Gotcha. Cool.
Still doing his thing. Now, when you go out, you got 3 dogs.
Yes.
And you take them all out together.
Yes.
And is that for the rabbit hunting? You take them all out together. Is there a reason why you take them all out, just for the rabbits? Yeah.
So something that's really convenient about having the terriers in the field with the Magyar is we kind of touched on it earlier about how I use the terriers to flush jackrabbits and locate jackrabbits for the sighthound, or I mean for the hawks. But it's also really nice to have that ability to cover a lot more ground for jackrabbits and for cottontails than obviously I can by myself. I'm not going to be able to smell out a jackrabbit. So it's nice to have the terriers there to be able to help with that. They are really good at finding jackrabbits. They cover a lot of ground. They are very thorough with their searching. And they're really thorough with their searching and with their stamina. They will go just as long as the sighthounds will, as far as in fact, they'll last longer because the sighthounds burn out a lot faster because it's really intensive on their muscles, and just on their respiratory system. They're moving at such a high speed that if they go for that long, their bodies will break down. So the terriers don't really have that problem. I mean, eventually, yes, if you run your dog for, a day straight, it's going to break down, but not the same as the sighthounds are. My Yogg just the other day ran 15 miles with absolutely no issues. The only reason we stopped is because we got back to the highway. There's no, they have a lot more stamina than the sighthounds do as far as distance, but the sighthounds make up for that in speed. They might not be able to go as far, but they can definitely go. They can get there a hell of a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. What size hawk or falcon do I need to snatch up an iguana?
So I don't know how in depth we want to get into the difference between hawks and falcons, but I'll give a very brief kind of amended version. So basically, whenever you think of falcons, for the most part, most falcons in North America are hunting birds. There are exceptions like kestrels, who are hunting a lot of voles and lizards and insects. There are prairie falcons who are eating snakes and rabbits and ground squirrels and stuff. And that's not to say that birds like peregrines are not eating those things. It's just what makes up the majority of their diet is going to be birds for the most part, generally. Hawks, on the other hand, are eating a lot more mice and voles and squirrels and snakes and smaller things. I wanted to touch on this earlier whenever Marshall made a comment about if there were that many hawks, there would be a lot less rabbits and squirrels. But in reality, most of the time, red-tailed hawks and things like that are not going out and hunting jackrabbits of their own accord. Like in the wild, they're going to be mostly going after rodents and snakes, mostly rodents, voles especially, around here at least. They don't really go after things like that super often. They do go after them, but not as much as, other things. So for something like an iguana, you could use anything really that was big enough to keep a handle on it. I actually know a guy who flies them with who flies iguanas with red tails in Florida and has had good success. There's also someone who flies a kestrel, which is a very small falcon. It's the smallest falcon in North America. Flies them on invasive lizards in Florida, which is really cool. Then again, a bald eagle may needed Mr. Parks.
It's a little joke between Billy and Jamie Park.
Yeah. They're pretty cool, and hawks will really surprise you as to what they will take in falconry. A lot of people have this really common misconception that they're taking, that hawks are catching these rabbits and killing them, and in reality, a lot of what falconry is building a really good relationship of trust with you and the bird, to the point where they'll understand that, hey, I'm going to catch this jackrabbit that I otherwise wouldn't be catching, wouldn't be able to, hold on to, and I'm doing it with the trust and the confidence that the falconer is going to come and help me, to kill the rabbit, and then I'm going to be able to eat off of it. So it's pretty interesting that they can make that connection. Sometimes some birds take it very naturally. Some birds never do, and some birds take a little bit more work. It's pretty interesting aspect of it that really plays into like how important trust is, and how it's really important that your bird trusts you to know that you're going to help them.
Okay, yeah, I would assume you would have to make a but anything you're hunting, any animal you're hunting with, you have to have a good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And try to become the best team you become. You know what I mean? Feel each other out and
definitely, yeah,
vibe with each other, and things of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you have any other topics you want to touch on?
No, not really. Marshall's busy. We've been on here for about an hour and a half, so yeah, we could call this one a night. And I appreciate you coming on.
Perfect.
And,
yeah.
Yeah, because you touched on a lot of topics. Of course, you have dogs. We normally in here, obviously, we talk about the Patterdale.
Mm-hmm.
We also talk about other type of hunting in general too. But yeah, obviously you're definitely the first person we had on here talking about hunting with birds.
Yeah.
And obviously, when we put this together, I never thought we'd have someone there hunting with birds and dogs. But it's definitely cool to have you on here, get that experience. But yeah, as far as that, yeah, we could end it here, and everyone keep hunting, take care of their dogs. Until next time, Marshall, yeah, he's doing his thing. Everyone knows Marshall he got a newborn baby, his first baby, so yeah, gets a little busy for him. Austin, I want to thank you for coming on. You want to say anything before we get up out of here?
Yeah, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to come on here and talk for a little bit. Have a good night. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you. All right, everyone. See y'all next Wednesday. Billy, Biggs, Jamie. You guys already know what it is. Salute like always. Have a good one.